Hi. Gosh, there is nobody who is online at the moment, but anyways, I will continue. My name is Sibela. I'm owner of Sibela Wines. Fermentation, microbiology, winemaking, quality, and organoleptic evaluation in wine are basically my expertise. And today I just wanted to chat briefly about how you can preserve the quality of your wine, especially once you've opened a bottle of red wine in particular. How can you preserve the quality? How can you store the wine? How can you make sure that the wine does not go off after you've opened it, and therefore you're not going to finish it? So because most of us are not necessarily people who would open a bottle of wine and finish it instantly. So but how do you make sure that the quality of your wine for a couple of days remains preserved, or without having to compromise the taste, the aromas of your wine? So I just wanted to focus specifically on red wine today, because all wines basically can go off at different stages, and they're just basically different in that type of way. So white wine doesn't necessarily have to be served or chilled, basically served or stored the same way as a red wine. So hence I decided to just speak briefly about red wines. So we need to understand a couple of things with regards to wine as soon as it's opened. What could go wrong, and how can we preserve the quality in those? Hi Palisa. Okay, so I hope after this video you'll be able to understand why the wine basically changes the taste and basically the quality after it has been opened. So when we buy a bottle of wine, luckily for most of us, we don't store the wines at home, so which means that we don't necessarily have our own private cellars, which would then come or have controlled temperatures, or controlled temperature features, which can help store the wine at the right temperature, because temperature, amongst many other things, are the parameters that are very, very important when it comes to the quality and maintaining the quality taste of your wine. And there is a reason for it. If you've ever bought a bottle of wine and left it in the car and come back and actually taste the wine without putting it in the fridge, you will realize that the taste might have changed if you paid attention. Because the temperature in wine, especially high temperatures, make the wine to undergo certain chemical processes, right? So that can change the profile of the wine, which will affect the flavor, affect the aromas, and definitely affect how the wine will taste. So that is why it's very important to consider the temperature when we are serving our wines and when we're storing our wines. So when we store our wine and when we serve wine generally, especially for red wine, we want to maintain a room temperature, right? So room temperature in South Africa is not necessarily the correct way for our wines to be stored, right? So if I'm going to buy a bottle of wine before I'm going to enjoy it from a bottle store, it's not a problem, because most bottle stores would have their aircons on, and the room temperature will not generally be the same as that of when I'm sitting at home or in my living room, because you wouldn't have considered that you need to keep your wines at a room temperature. So room temperature, unlike other countries outside South Africa, like your European countries, they can store their wines at room temperature because of the differences in climate, and differences in our weathers and all those things. So with us, our room temperature, if you've noticed, it's actually always above 25 most of the time, unless it's summer. So you find that where I am right now, the temperature is basically almost 30 degrees Celsius, but that is not the required room temperature that we're supposed to be storing our wines, right? So even for red wine, keeping it in an environment like that might not be so ideal. So that is why even for a red wine, it would benefit massively by actually letting it stay in the fridge for a couple of minutes before you serve the wine. Hi Alex. Oh, thank you Palisa. I'm glad we can agree on a couple of things. Hi Tabang. Oh, I think, well, you know what? Let's just not be too snobbish about wine. I think people who put ice in wine, as long as it tastes good for them, let's let them. Because remember, wine actually has got water in it. So it's not really a total smash if somebody decides to put a block of ice in the wine, right? But it just depends also on the person's perspective with regards to the wine, how they like their wine. There are people who prefer their wines dashed with a bit of Coke. I mean, are we going to criticize those people? No, at the end of the day, we drink wine so that we can enjoy it. Hi Chiru, welcome. So I was still talking about temperature, right? And I forgot what I was talking about. So as I was saying though, that the temperature in Europe is not necessarily the same as that here in South Africa, because here at home, our room temperature is way above 25 degrees Celsius, which is really not a room temperature that you would have your wine stored at and served at, right? So that is why for red wines, it's not always a bad idea to let it sit in the fridge for say 30 minutes before you serve the wine. It allows the wine to really be expressive in terms of flavor and your aromas and also the taste of the wine. So it's not only white wines that we need to put in the fridge. But anyways, enough about white wines. So if we buy wine from a bottle store, they most likely have controlled temperatures there, whether they're using an aircon or they're using automated refrigerators that can be controlled in terms of temperature so that they can keep the wine at the required temperature, right? So when you're buying wine from a bottle store, you get at home, you open the bottle of wine, but you don't necessarily want to finish the bottle of wine. But then how can you preserve the quality of that wine? Maybe you just want to drink the wine over a couple of days before finishing the entire bottle. Maybe you're a responsible drinker like that. As for me, guys, like I go through a whole bottle of wine. I actually need to drink 2 bottles of wine, so it's bad. But anyways, it's life. So there are a couple of things you can do, right? I mentioned that the most important things are your temperature and oxygen, right? These 2 things remain the most crucial parameters in wine from the start when we're making wine to when we are actually drinking wine. And at different stages, we need to be able to control them. Yes, you've heard that for example, oxygen should be allowed in your wine for you to be able to let the wine breathe, right? But in instances where you want to keep the wine longer, please make sure that as soon as you're done pouring your wine, return the cork and close the wine and put it into the fridge. This makes sure that you at least minimize the amount of oxygen that your wine will be exposed to, because exposure to the oxygen to the wine will allow the wine to quickly go bad and therefore affecting the aromas, which will go flat. So the wine will be flat, and also if the wine gets oxidized, that means that it will also ruin the flavors and the aromas, and therefore the color of the wine also will be compromised. So for you to make sure that you can still drink the wine over and over and again, please close the wine as soon as you're done pouring pouring your first glass, and you can continue to go into the fridge and pour your other glass until you're done. So also, what you need to do is when you put the wine in the fridge, please make sure that you don't leave it upright like this for a long time, because this also, it does not support the idea of letting your cork be in contact with the wine, and it can cause the wine to be corked. So it will also affect that quality of your wine and and yeah, the quality of your wine in general. So again, you want to make sure that please do not put the wine where there's sun exposure, where there is light. It will change the profile of the wine. It will affect the quality of the wine. right? So it will make the wine turn into a vinegar-like taste, or yeah, it will turn it into that kind of a wine, and that will destroy the quality of your wine. Also, please make sure that you do not let the wine go through extreme changes in temperature. So that is why I said as soon as you're done pouring your wine, put it back into the fridge so that there is no that fluctuation, that much of it in terms of temperature. Remember how temperature is important in the wine? When wine is stored at cool temperatures, the chemical processes that can actually cause the wine to go bad is very slow. That chemical process will occur slowly, which means that it will take a long time before the wine can go bad, even after you've opened it, right? Although we agree that opening the wine and leaving it a bit longer, yes, it does allow the wine to, be exposed to oxygen, which can be, which can actually, affect the quality of the wine over a long time. So you want to make sure that it's stored in the fridge. You want to make sure that it's stored upright. It's stored like what's the word? If you can, if you can't, just don't keep it like this for a very long time. So you need to make sure that the cork is in contact with the wine. You need to make sure that there are no massive temperature changes during the storage of your wine. You need to keep it away from the light as much as possible. I'm not sure if there's anything I forgot. It's just really sometimes very difficult to be able to say everything or remember everything accordingly as possible. So I think those are a couple of things that you can do to make sure that you keep your wine fresh and in good quality after you've opened the wine. So but also it's important to note that you can't open your bottle of wine and expect it to taste the same over a couple of days when you have allowed so much oxygen to go into your wine, when you have not kept the wine in the refrigerator, when you have kept the wine exposed to the sunlight. So you can't expect it to have the same quality because there's certain chemical processes that would occur. One of them being the wine will taste more like vinegar, the wine will lose the flavors and aroma, in turn will lose the quality of the wine, and it will definitely lose the color of the wine. So that's what I wanted to say about how you can preserve your red wines. But for red wines, if you can keep the wine closed, make sure you keep it in the fridge. You can keep it as long as for like 3 to 5, sometimes 7 even, but just make sure that before, if you were working in a hospitality sector like a restaurant, it would be ideal to taste the wine before you can give it or serve it to someone else. Sometimes it's not even all about working in the hospitality sector. You could be serving guests, so what you want to do is you want to taste the wine and see if it still tastes good before you can serve it. So I think that's what's important with regards to storing and preserving the quality of your wine after you have opened. So you can keep it for 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 days depending on the wine itself, because younger wines can be kept longer. Meanwhile, older and and lighter wines, they actually go off much more, so they are more vulnerable to oxygen than younger wines would be. So yeah, I hope you guys found this really interesting. So Godfrey, hi, welcome back again. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you're always here. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I can contribute to your journey in wine. So I'm glad. And thanks to the 21 days lockdown. Hey, Palisa. It's too late now, it's alcohol deliveries and sales are banned. So unfortunately, there is no movement of alcohol allowed. But definitely after the lockdown, please do place your order. I would really appreciate your support. So anyways, I'm so, what is this now? So I can also wrap this. I hope you guys found this content about how you can preserve your wine at home. I hope I made it as simple as possible, because sometimes I feel like we we make wine so complicated and it's so unnecessary. So I try but by all means to be as as simple as possible when talking about wine. So I think that's the important thing about communication. Why do we have to speak? How do I sit here and mention things that are so complicated to understand? Then that means there's no communication between me as a person talking about the wine and the person who's receiving the information on the other side. Yes, it does. And to show that this is actually true, even for my red wine, all my red wines, I chill them before I serve them, and it tastes really different. If you see, Thabang agrees with me that he has also experienced that the wine tastes much better. It's more expressive, which means like it's alive, So if you want to see the differences between how the wine would taste when it's hot, because our room temperature is hot, so I feel like there's mostly most of the time we are so stuck up with the whole thing of room temperature without realizing that in South Africa our room temperature is not as that in Europe, because room temperature is supposed to be from 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. If I keep my wine in the house, it's not 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, unless it's in the cellar or it's in a controlled area in terms of temperature. But otherwise, most chances are that wine is way above 25 degrees Celsius, which is not good for the wine. So for red wines, even I recommend that we let them sit in the fridge for at least 30 minutes before we can serve them. Then you'll be able to enjoy it. Then you'll be able to get the flavors. Then you'll be able to, appreciate the wine even much more better. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up with how you can do a quick evaluation of your wine in terms of the quality. What we don't realize, like we just spoke now about how to preserve the quality and a couple of things, and in order to prevent a couple of things from happening, what we don't realize is that there are a lot of things that can go wrong when not necessarily because the wine was produced in a poorly quality standards, but because wine itself continues to undergo chemical processes that can be influenced either mostly by physical contact or physical factors, sometimes even microorganisms that would continue to grow in the wine that can affect the wine badly, right? Well, to some extent, not that microorganisms can live in the wine, but you never know. So what I'm trying to say is, when we taste the wine, how you can actually evaluate the quality of the wine in simple steps, like easy, when you're at home or before you drink your wine, or whether you're at a wine tasting or you're chilling with your wine connoisseur friends who can be really snobbish and annoying. So this is what you can do, right? So firstly, you want to evaluate the color of the wine. Before you do that, maybe just evaluate the clarity of the wine. So the clarity of the wine actually tells you a couple of things about the wine. Wine can undergo a fault which is in association to the clarity. So please make sure that your wine is clear as possible, your wine is clean, your wine is not cloudy, and there is no haziness. Because when wine is, when there could be a condition that causes the wine to basically be cloudy, and that is the protein instability of the wine. Ne? And proteins are naturally occurring in wine, but the wine could perhaps undergo that instability, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that the wine can kill you or you can die. It's not poisonous. It just takes away, the quality of the wine. It lowers the quality of the wine. It makes you, less interested in enjoying the wine. Can I do that tomorrow? Can I make that my content for tomorrow? Can I, please? I'll make health benefits the content of tomorrow. So please also tune in. So I think health benefits are really important because, a lot of times people don't realize that you can actually benefit in a healthier. You can live a healthier life by just enjoying a glass of wine. right? Instead of drinking more other beverages. We're not saying that people should be drinking only wine. We're not also saying people should stop drinking other beverages. We're just saying that a glass or two can actually help you, benefit, in other ways, like health-wise. Anyways, Tabang, I'll do the content for tomorrow. Thank you. So where was I? Yeah. And then also, look at the color of the wine, right? At this stage, if you're just doing it to evaluate the quality, it's not really important, but it's also a really nice and fun thing to do. For example, I just mentioned also that sometimes red wines can undergo oxidation, which can cause the wine to lose its color. Remember that? So red wine, if it has undergone oxidation, it will lose its color, so it will be brownish in color. So the minute somebody pours you a glass of wine at a restaurant and you notice the color is more brown than red or purple or dark, then you have the right to question, and you have the right to ask them to pour you a different wine from a different bottle, right? So the color can also indicate how old or young the wine is, because red wines tend to lose the color as they age, and also white wines tend to be brighter as they age. So it can be an indication that this is the wine that has, has matured. Also the level of extraction. I believe that the more wine gets matured in the barrel, it will extract more compounds, which are like a lot of things, in the wine get richer. So that's how you can also see the color of the wine, which is not really important at this stage. It can also give you an idea in terms of the type of grape that was used, because different grapes actually have different profiles. One of the profiles would be the color. So, like, for example, a Chardonnay can be brighter than a Chenin Blanc in color. So you would know, okay, this is lighter, so it's most likely to be a Chenin, but not a Chardonnay. So it's just a guess kind of a thing that you want to do there. And then what you also want to do, you want to, what's the most important thing again? Whatever. Spilled my wine. Anyways, so also if you have a look on the side, what other people always emphasize on, which are the legs. So the legs of the wine, they generally just give you an idea of the alcohol of the wine, but some people believe that the legs also demonstrate a high quality wine. Does it? I don't think so. I don't know. So it also can give you an indication of the body. Remember, for example, what is that? There's light, there's medium, and there's full. Full-bodied wines, most of them are high alcohol wines. So they're wines that would have an alcohol content of about 13.5 and 14%, right? So it's generally the viscosity of the wine and the flow of the alcohol in terms of, so that's also something really nice that you can do. I'm not sure if you guys can see like these things that I'm talking about, but it's also nice, the more you play around with your wine, the better it is for your wine, in terms of also allowing the wine to breathe and just letting the wine be exposed to the oxygen for a couple of seconds, so that the ethanol, which is a pure compound, is it a compound? Yeah, ethanol, which is one of the components in the wine, and you don't want to smell the ethanol firsthand, and also the sulfides in the wine can be blown away by the oxygen or by the air. Then you don't have to smell the sulfides in the wine, because it can make the wine have the sense of rotten eggs, and you don't want to smell that in the wine, although sulfides are also added in the wine to preserve the wine during the wine making. So it just helps to let the wine sit a bit, play around with the wine for a couple of seconds, and then now once you have looked at the color of the wine, you also want to swirl the wine before you sniff it, before you smell it, because as you do this, it also allows the aromas to evaporate into the air, react with the oxygen or combine with the oxygen molecules, and therefore giving it more enhanced smell in terms of you identifying the flavors, identifying a couple of off odors that the wine could potentially have. So when it comes to off odors, please think about anything that makes you uncomfortable about the wine. There's certain different kinds of flavors that could represent a faulty wine and therefore all odors in the wine. Think about wet cardboard, rotten eggs, wet dog, anything in that line that makes you feel uncomfortable about the wine. It's a representation of odors. I will. So those are the things you want to look out for. But I always say that your wine needs to smell clean, it needs to smell fresh, it needs to smell like you want to drink it now. It needs to give you that, that spirit that I want to drink this wine right now. Okay, so as I play with my wine, I can see the level of the viscosity there. It increases, which is great. That's the alcohol there that gets stuck on the sides of the glass. So also what's important is it's thinking about the flavors or the smell that the wine has. Does it remind you of anything in particular? So wine can have different flavors and aromas that come from 3 categories. They can be primary aromas, they can be secondary aromas, they can be tertiary aromas. So these different aromas actually, smell different, and they give you an indication of the style of the wine. So fresh, fruity wines are generally really young wines, and then wines that have more nutty flavors to them or nutty aromas to them, and a little bit, or not a little bit, but some yeasty notes are an indication that the wine went through a secondary fermentation, and then which is sometimes very well practiced in red wines, but not so much in white wines, but only when we're making champagne and your Chardonnay. So and then with tertiary aromas would be more flavors or aromas that come from the maturation process, which is the aging process, which would be derived from your American oak or your French oak, which would be flavors such as your vanilla flavors, your smokiness in the wine, what is the other ones? Your coconut flavors in the wine, chocolate flavors in the wine. Those kind of flavors are an indication that the wine perhaps might have underwent a tertiary fermentation. So it might have been wine that has been aged, because remember, in wine we don't add flavors, into the wine. We don't necessarily add flavor additives into the wine, but the flavors are naturally occurring, so they are derived from the wine making process, the fermentation process, the aging process, and also the grape itself. Remember, wine is made from grapes, so the grape itself would have different flavors and aromas. So when wine is fresh and young and fruity, it will give you indications. For red wines, please consider any red fruit, any dark fruits, any red fruits in that category. And then white, think about citrus fruits, think about tropical fruits. Hi Coffee. Thank you. Tabang, you can purchase directly from our page, so you just leave us a message that you want to order your wine. Please order now, so that when the lockdown is over, I'll be able to arrange for delivery, all right, so that you don't have to wait so long after the lockdown. So enough about flavors. But I always say that drinking wine and appreciating wine is not necessarily about being too technical about the wine. We always would associate the flavors and the aromas or the smell of the wine with the things we know. And sometimes if I don't know how a wet dog smells like, how the hell am I supposed to know or pick it from the wine? If I don't know how bent matches smell like, I'm definitely not going to be able to, to be able to pick it up from my wine. I can't identify it. So if you can't identify a particular smell, let it go. Just focus on the quality of the wine, focus on enjoying the wine, and focus on appreciating the wine. Thank you, madam. Thank you. I can't wait. Oh, Tabang, awesome. No, please purchase and order. It's just unfortunate that I haven't been able to scout for a couple of places where I can place my wine. And perhaps if you know of any popular restaurants and bottle stores where I can put the wine in, it'll be really nice. Then I can just approach them, so people from the area can be able to order the wine and be able to easily access the wine. But for now, I can only deliver the wine. But yeah, I'm getting there. So anyways, where was I? And then you now want to taste the wine, right? You're ready to taste the wine. So when you taste your wine, please make sure, let me taste now. Yeah, well. Anyways, so when you taste the wine, guys, make sure that the wine covers the entire tongue. So our tongues have got different components which are able to pick or taste different flavors of food or drink or wine that we drink. So when you taste your wine, consider a couple of things. Ask yourself a couple of things. How do you feel about the entry? Does this wine taste like a dry wine or a sweet wine? So basically ask yourself about the sweetness level. Do you feel like it's a sweet wine or not? How do you feel about the acidity? Do you feel like it's a very acidic wine or it's not? How do you feel about the body of the wine when it lands on your tongue? Is it heavy? Is it medium? Or is it just light? And how do you feel about the tannins? Especially for red wines, we always have to consider the tannins. So that dryness in the middle of your tongue and a bit of acidity that you get from the wine is the level of tannins in your wine. So some wines actually vary in terms of, the amount of tannin the wine has, depending on the original grape, the style of the wine making, and those couple of things. The different wines will have different tannins or levels of tannins in them. And sometimes, even though all the wines have different tannins to it, it also have different texture in terms of the texture. Some wines are smoother than the others, silkier than the others. So it's just a couple of things that you can ask yourself, but not limited to, because this is just a step that you take to just now get to ask yourself if all those the guesses you've been making from the start, do they now come together? Are they the same? Were you right about your guess with regards to the wine? What else can you ask yourself? Also, do you feel like the wine is balanced? Because sometimes some wines might not necessarily be balanced, and that could be also like a bad thing for the wine, because you want the wine to be balanced in terms of everything I've just mentioned: alcohol, sugar, everything. You just need the wine needs to balance. Also, how do you feel about the alcohol content? Obviously, it's not something to stress much about it, because it will always be written at the back of your bottle, so it's not much to worry about. And then what you also want to do is, I guess you can taste. You can ask yourself now a question, whether you like the wine or not. If you like the wine, it's thumbs up. If you don't like the wine, it's thumbs down. So that's just basically how you can do a quick evaluation in terms of the quality of the wine. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this content, and I hope that you found this informative, and I hope you're still keeping your spirits high during this time of the lockdown, and maintaining social distancing. And would love to see you again tomorrow, as Thabang suggested that I would talk more about the health benefits of drinking wine moderately. I actually tried doing that. I think I need to speak to Thabang Moshate more, because I think, a lot of people recommended me to them. I'll actually try speaking to them now and setting up a meeting when we reopen, because, But anyways, thank you so much, Thabang. I hope that you have a wonderful day further. Thank you so much. I'll be waiting for your orders, guys. Thank you.